This ball python just laid a clutch of eggs, but it looks like we have an issue. Unfortunately, it looks like the majority of these eggs are slugs. Slugs are a term that breeders use when referring to eggs that aren't fertile, so there's no baby snake growing inside. Slugs are typically smaller and have a brownish, yellowish color to them. And when we candle slugs, we won't be able to see any veins or an embryo growing inside. The 3 very small yellow eggs are definitely slugs. You can see when I candle these eggs that there is no sign of any veins or an embryo. It's all just yolk. But the last 2 eggs I'm not sure about, so we're going to candle them to find out. This funny shaped egg is often referred to as a boob egg. Sometimes they hatch out no problem, but in my experiences, ones with this much of a bump on them aren't fertile, and that's the case here. In this last egg, you can see an embryo, but the veins are not very strong, so I'm not sure if this egg is going to make it. So we only have 1 possibly good egg left in this clutch. We'll incubate it and hope for the best. And I'll cut one of those slugs open for you in the next video to show you what's inside. Now let's take a look inside. One of my ball pythons just laid a clutch of eggs, but unfortunately most of those eggs were slugs. So today I'm going to cut open one of those slugs and show you what's inside. A slug is an infertile egg, which means there's no baby snake growing inside. A slug is usually significantly smaller than a fertile egg, and it's also got a brown, yellowish color to it. The shell is still soft like a fertile egg, but it's much thicker. Now let's take a look inside. The knife easily sliced open the soft egg shell, and a very thick yolk started oozing out of it. The inside of the egg definitely has an odor to it, but it's not necessarily a bad smell. It smells like a stronger version of the inside of a chicken egg before you would cook it. The yolk inside was not as runny as it would be if it was a fertile egg. It was very dark and thick. If this egg was fertile, we would find some veins on the inside of the eggshell, and we'd also find an embryo. But as you can see here, the only thing that's inside of this egg is yolk. Now I know some of you are asking if it's edible, and yes, if you cook it properly, you can eat it. These ball python eggs are on day 9 of incubation. This is the only egg in the clutch that may be viable. I'll candle it again today to see if there was any development inside. Looking at this egg, there may be an embryo, but I don't see any veins inside, which is not a good sign at all. This boob egg also looks like it was trying to develop, but there's no signs of veins in this egg either. And of course, there's no doubt that the last 2 eggs are infertile. Let's cut another infertile egg open so we can compare it to the one that we cut open last week. The shells of the infertile eggs are much thicker than the shells of fertile egg. And just like last week, when I cut off the tip of this eggshell, a thick yellowish color yolk started oozing out. I'll also say that the smell of the yolk is worse than it was last time. When I further opened the egg up, I noticed that some of the inside was beginning to solidify, and it appears that the yolk that's closest to the eggshell is solidifying first, which makes sense because the shell of the egg is permeable to both gases and liquids. So despite the high level of humidity inside of the egg box with nothing growing inside, it looks like the egg is drying up. I don't know why I decided to do this, but I did it. These ball python eggs are on day 23 of incubation. And as you can see, they are covered with a fuzzy mold and they smell pretty terrible. Right from the start, these eggs didn't look good, but I thought one egg may have a chance. So I decided to incubate them, but it's pretty clear that they went bad. My curiosity got the best of me and I cut it open, but I learned something new. When I cut into this egg, it was much different than cutting open an infertile egg. And it was also very different from cutting open a fertile egg after the snake had passed away. The smell was much worse than an infertile egg, but not quite as bad as a fertile egg after it's gone bad. The yolk inside had the consistency of sort of a runny pudding, but the yolk on the outside that was closest to the eggshell had already started to solidify. This egg never had a chance at making it through incubation, but I think there may have been an attempt at fertilization, it just didn't take properly. Now, I never had an issue with it impacting my eggs in any way, but I noticed that the marker that I used to mark the tops of the eggs could be seen both inside and outside of the eggshell. So to be safe in the future, I'm going to mark my eggs with something different.